Okay, I say we start it right here. Okay, the last 2 minutes have been completely inappropriate, but welcome to the Allground Pod. Welcome to the Allground Pod. Welcome to the Allground Pod.
Whoa, Elias is doing terrible. Welcome to the Allground Pod. Welcome to the Allground Pod. Yeah.
Welcome to the Allground Pod. Welcome to the Allground Pod.
Okay, how do we give mother the I can't even every
Yeah, maybe turn
Okay, hit
me.
the same one again.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Welcome to the Allground Pod. We didn't even have the music during that. That was the best part.
Yeah,
of it.
the music is good. I couldn't figure out what the music button was.
Okay.
All right.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been a while. We have a new studio setup, which for those of you who train with us, you'll know that it's just our gym. And we're just now on the mats with our new cool sign that Elias and Ty got done.
Yeah.
Right there behind us that says Allground if you can't read.
Yeah, I mean, not like it really matters. People are just going to be listening to this anyways.
Yeah.
But for those that watch
but-
on Spotify,
Yeah,
and
you
on
can
YouTube.
actually
And on
see on
YouTube.
Spotify
Yeah.
and YouTube. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, it has been a while. I think let's just talk about, kind of how life has been since our last podcast. We'll get to the point of how I beat Elias in my bet of Patty Pimblett versus Michael Chandler and how he owes me $5.
no, that just takes off $5 from the debt you owe me from all the other fights.
But we'll get to that.
Okay.
But yeah, kind of. Ty, do you want to start?
Start with what?
What do you want me to start with?
We're starting about, kind of what's been going on through the lives of the Allground team, the Allground Pod team.
Yeah. So let's start with Ty.
Well, first of all, let's
He's
talk
part of
about
this team.
the elephant in the room, which is
Me.
the espresso machine that has not been given away.
Whoa, hey,
Oh,
buddy.
shit, okay.
I think people want to know.
Okay.
When is that going to happen?
Well, so yeah, I think we've really been focusing on the business of Allground, the storefront of Allground, the local business of Allground. What happens inside these doors, and I think that's why we haven't been, on the pod. And obviously, a lot has happened since then. But yeah, we've been really, really honing in on just like obviously this has been from the beginning, but I feel like we're really hitting a rhythm on what goes on inside the doors of Allground as far as instruction, as far as like community, and
Yeah, I think just building the brand overall. Really, really focusing on building the brand. I mean,
Yes.
hence, just putting this up on the walls, getting our sign in order. We didn't even have a real sign for the longest time. We just had a paper sign.
yeah, it was literally paper stuck on the side of the building.
Yeah, it
yeah,
was.
so
and
thanks
Temtai
to Temtai for that.
Yeah, Temtai is the backbone of Allground. As I
Really?
like to say.
As my wife likes to say, it was arts and crafts time.
Yeah.
To arts and crafts.
You mean your little arts and crafts?
my little? Yeah, she always says little when she has contempt or disdain for anything that I do. It's like, are you gonna do that little arts and crafts thing? Yeah, I am, honey.
That's
Thank
cute
you.
how you do that little arts and crafts thing.
Yeah.
That's really cute.
That little jujitsu thing, where you roll around with dudes, whatever.
If anyone says like, "Oh, that's cute," you do like jujitsu, you like roll around. I'm like, it's not cute. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
I
not
choke
even-
people to death.
Yeah, not even a little bit cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
maybe a little homoerotic, but
Well, yeah, of course. Jiu-jitsu is inherently gay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's okay.
yeah.
So the tournament, did you want to talk about the upcoming tournament?
Well,
I'm excited
actually,
about that.
I think the espresso machine is a really good segue into when we'll be releasing it, and we will be raffling that off officially at our 1 year anniversary, and so this is a big deal. We're 11 months old. As all
Not us.
Yeah.
You're about as mature as an 11-month-old.
If we were 11 months old, just sitting here doing our own podcast.
Boss baby.
So Laird and I are 11 months old today. We were twins. We were reverse aging. And I mean, I'm able to walk now. This is crazy.
Life's good. I've started learning words.
I'm still shitting myself.
Still wear diapers.
But they always said you need to be 1 year old to at least do a podcast. But we proved everyone wrong.
That's right. 11 months.
Yeah, here we are. 11 fucking months. Yeah. What now, Joe Rogan?
Okay. So 11 months old as a business, as an academy, and that's really cool. It's pretty awesome. I mean, just even walking into the doors today, I was telling Ty, I'm like, I can't believe it's almost been a year.
Yeah.
But a
I
year
can't believe
flies
it's
by.
11 months ago, you were borrowing an impact driver from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so started the saga. That's crazy.
Yeah. And we walked into your gym and we just kind of checked out the space. I remember we talked a little bit about how you bolted all the the equipment into the walls, like the pull-up bars, the racks, and everything. And so that was like our first kind of exchange with Temp Ty, and then it just the flowers just blossomed from there. And
I still remember the look on your face when you said, we're opening a jiu-jitsu gym down here, like right down the parking lot. And I said, oh, like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu? And you said, no, just jiu-jitsu. I was like, all right, I don't know the difference, but whatever.
No, telling a guy
jiu-jitsu.
that's just never done jiu-jitsu, only knows it by Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Elias like, no, it's jiu-jitsu. Ty's like, well, then I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Because I've been wanting to do that thing called Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, but JJ. Everybody wants to do that.
Yeah. Let's do some JJ.
That's a Master Ken reference for those of you that don't know. So.
But yeah.
I know.
God, and it kind of puts in, because you think like, holy shit, a year goes by so fast, but then you really think about it. Yeah, and when you think back to that first day of meeting Ty, talking to Ty, walking into his gym, asking to borrow the impact driver, it's like a lot of shit has happened since then.
Yeah.
A lot, and then when you really put your year into a perspective of like, this happened, that happened, this happened, I lived here, you lived there, like, it's pretty crazy how much can get done in a year, but also like in the time frame of what this business is to us and what this brand is to us, like it's microscopic,
Yeah, it is crazy when things are happening so fast and you're building something and you're creating all these memories and new people are coming in and they're coming and going, and just all of these opportunities are coming your way. And it's weird, like after a year it goes by so fast, but then when you're looking back you're just like, damn, it didn't seem fast.
Yeah.
Like it seems fast now
In the moment.
Yeah, it seems fast now, but just thinking about everything that's happened, I'm like, that feels like years worth of things that
This
happened.
seems like a recap time. So like what would you say? I mean, obviously Lila being born, that's big. But that's not the brand. Well, it kind of is a little bit.
Yeah.
But what are the big things you think are like highlights from 2024, 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest, like you said, the biggest thing, and probably the most special thing was, the birth of Lila, and like also just like Tina's pregnancy, and like just getting to work together through that and like learn so much. When your partner is pregnant, you realize that you know so little about like the female body and like what it's capable of and like what it goes through, and then like you go through these 9 months, and then like to cap it off, with her doing like a completely natural birth, you just like, that's like the end of the fireworks show, like the climax where you're like, holy shit, like she's a superhuman.
Yeah.
She's a fucking superhuman, so like yeah, I think obviously that was the biggest thing, and what's crazy is the day we opened was the day we figured out that Tina was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
she actually did the pregnancy test that day?
Yes.
In the bathroom
Yes, in the
here at
bathroom here.
Allground.
Wow.
At Allground, yeah. And so that's when we had kind of like assumed, but that was when we like confirmed it. I think it was the day before that we were like, I think you're pregnant. Like,
yeah.
And the day we opened was when we confirmed it. And yeah, ever since Allground has been a thing, so has Lila.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because
crazy.
my youngest, our CrossFit gym was open for about 6 months, and Supa went into labor at an event at the gym.
Yeah.
And it was in our very, very first location. And so, you know, our youngest is essentially the same age as our CrossFit gym, which is
That's
Yeah.
funny.
funny. Like, yeah,
That
you
is
just
crazy.
remember that.
Another parallel. you know,
Yeah,
another
yeah.
Another
similarity.
parallel,
Which-
yeah.
yeah,
Also half Lao, half white.
Yeah. The amount of parallels between me and Temp Ty are kind of
It's insane.
like freaky at times,
Yeah,
you know? Like
it's
he
super
might just be me from a different, you know.
Well, the fact that your
Like, we might be-
birthdays, you two also are so close.
Yeah.
Just a couple days apart, really.
What day? What? It's
I'm July 11th.
Yeah, we're 4 days apart. I'm July
Holy
15th.
shit.
Isn't
Yeah,
that
that's
weird?
crazy. Yeah.
It's just like there's resonance in the universe, and I think we're just like
Yes.
at a resonant frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think when things like this come together, and to put it into perspective for the viewers or the listeners, you know, we could just go over all the parallels. First of all, you know, Ty and his wife, Ty met his wife in the Bay Area, right?
Well, she's from the
that's,
Bay Area.
That's where
yeah.
she's from.
Yeah.
And so is Tina, and they're both fully Laotian women. Yeah, and they actually like were in the same. They have family in the same area. Tina
Yeah,
was
probably
born
a couple miles from each other.
exactly. Tina was born in Modesto. You know, Supa was near.
Supa was
there.
actually born in Laos, but she grew up in Modesto.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so parallel there, and then you know on top of that, we both have daughters as our first, and they were both born on the exact same day,
December 30th.
December 30th.
Yeah.
And
Exactly 19 years apart.
yeah, exactly 19 years apart, and they're the two. I mean, there's probably they might be the only two half white, half Laotian women in
Reno.
all of Reno.
Yeah.
You know?
It's highly likely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just
Hey, and I think that if anybody can legitimately go in the comments and say, I am half Laotian, half white, and
Yeah.
I'm a woman, and I live in Reno, you get an Allground hat. I think you get an Allground hat.
yeah, and a free, and we'll put your name in the raffle, and you have the potential to win the espresso machine.
Yeah.
Which is going to be raffled off in 1990 never.
Yeah, we're gonna just wait another year.
Yeah.
Well, let's just circle it around. Yeah. That's an empty box in there,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
You've been lying to us the whole time.
Yeah.
It's just a prop box.
Yeah. Well, I think there's even more that I can't think of right now, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild. It's wild. And
is trippy.
that's kind of where you feel like, holy shit, I was meant to meet this person, you know, or like, you know, maybe the universe just pulled us together, and that's, you know.
Now to be
it kinda
clear,
feels
you're
that way.
talking about me and you, not you and Tina.
Both.
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Okay,
but
okay.
me and you right now is what I'm talking about. But Tina and I kind of have a crazy story too. And like, there was so many opportunities of us like meeting. You know, we had same wrestling coaches growing up, trained with the same people, and just and never crossed paths. And then we did like cross paths, and like, you know, there would be distance, and then we would be friends, and then so there was like so much that came into us, like where it definitely feels like wow, this is meant to be,
Totally.
you know.
Yeah. I always felt like that with you and Tina for sure.
But mostly I'm just in love with Ty. And that was me talking about him.
So many men. Yeah.
No, yeah, definitely. Like Tina and I's story, I was telling it the other day when we were doing a little Allground hot tub party. And
Didn't know about this.
Hot tub time machine action
Yeah.
going on there.
yeah, and every time I tell the story, I'm like, holy shit, that's crazy. It's crazy, like that we, you know, eventually ended up together. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's why
I'm not going to tell it on the podcast. It's too long.
Yeah, it's too long of a
Save it for the next pod.
yeah. Or we'll have Tina on the pod and we can tell it together,
Yeah,
so
there you
she can
go.
kind of bounce off
Yeah.
off me and correct me when I'm wrong, because you know, guys, they just say things confidently, but it's probably not actually what really happened.
We're all full of crap.
Yeah.
We are.
He was like, no,
And she'd be like,
that's not how it happened.
yeah, that definitely didn't happen. Wait, so I didn't come up to you in a sick leather jacket with slick back hair in a club?
Yeah, I didn't fight off
And I wasn't
7 guys.
snapping, going like this, dancing towards you.
He was like, when you're a jet all the way.
No.
Like, wait a minute, that's West Side Story.
In
What the
Santa
hell?
Cruz, and I fought off a shark. Remember?
You were surfing.
It was a
shark was trying to
goldfish.
attack you. I jumped in the water and choked it unconscious.
Oh
Duh.
my God, I thought you were going to say you jumped over the shark. You don't know the reference though, right? Really famous.
Fonzie.
Fonzie, Happy
Fonzie,
Days,
yeah.
the episode where he jumps over the shark.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy that you knew that.
And
That is
I was
crazy.
literally like, I don't know what the fuck.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, that marked the end of Happy Days, pretty much.
yeah.
That's where everybody's like, all right, this show's stupid now.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So Lila, big deal.
Yeah,
Lila,
biggest deal.
Lila was the
The highlight.
catalyst.
The highlight of the year for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in a year that just had so many blessings,
Yeah.
many blessings, and so many things to like, just have gratitude towards. You know.
That means, so I was thinking about it a little bit, and technically, we're about to hit our 1 year tomorrow, but we had to close here at Allground for a month when everything was getting tested.
Yeah, holy shit. So
When
this is the 1 year podcast.
Right, yeah. The walls were getting repainted. You know,
Yeah.
we were doing environmental testing on the building. But technically, our first day open would be tomorrow. Tomorrow would mark 1 year of our first day being open. Meaning today is 1 year since Tina took that test, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So technically, gestational age, Lila is a little over a year.
Wow.
Wow,
From the
this-
time she
So
guy- this
basically,
guy
we're
is dad.
celebrating Lila's birthday.
a complete genetic
There
code.
you go.
When the
Gestational.
gametes met.
Yeah,
You don't know what gametes are, do you?
I do.
You do?
Yeah, I definitely. That's when the gametes meet.
Yeah, the gametes.
I'm also familiar with gametes.
Yeah. I'm always talking about them.
If you know what gametes are, like the rest of us, comment and we'll send you an autograph.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, I mean, the first competition that you guys put threw your hat in the ring for Allground, that was a pretty big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was like maybe the next chapter. I don't know. It seemed like before then we were just building, and we were really excited to get to the point where we could bring a team out confidently to a tournament.
Yeah.
But when you start a new academy, I mean, you're dealing with so many beginners, so many white belts, a couple people that come from other academies and want to learn from you, but
Yeah.
the bulk of your student base is going to be white belts.
Mm-hmm.
So just building them up to the point where we're like, oh yeah, we're super confident that we can go out and show what we're all about.
Yes.
And that was so cool. I mean, I think we not only waited the perfect amount of time, but did the right thing in going through a training camp and giving everybody that experience for someone that hasn't even experienced competing in jiu-jitsu before. Now they get an idea of like the proper way to prepare and feel super confident. And that was just fun for us, not only as competitors that have done it before, but as coaches, really bringing our first team from our academy. Because we've led other programs in different places, but we'd be representing another gym,
Yeah, I always maybe felt a little bit like you were writing somebody else's story.
Yeah.
And you're finally writing your own story, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and to begin, like we weren't even. I mean, obviously, having a highly competitive team of athletes like was a goal of ours. But in the beginning, I remember the day before we opened, we were here like all night just buffing things out, dialing it in, and then we had the 6 a.m. class the next morning, and we were like, if one person, because we were just expecting like. We haven't done any marketing, just Allground or just Instagram, and like we were
Just
like, all
telling
right,
people about
there's
it a bunch.
possibility that just one person shows up to this class, and if that's the case, we're gonna give that one person the best damn class of their life.
Yeah.
And there was like 10 people in the morning class, but yeah, from that into like having like some breakout performances from some people that have like really like kind of just like fell into our laps by coincidence. You know, they didn't see an ad. They were either connected with someone, and you know, they came into Allground and were just like, you know what, I'll try jiu-jitsu. And then they ended up just blossoming, and now they're all very passionate about it. You know, like, I think a couple people that we can really point to that are Colton and Parker, you know, and like, I remember Colton was your daughter's friend, Ava's friend, and we came in and played spike ball with him.
Yeah.
You know, and that was our first time meeting Colton. And Elias and I were like, hey, we're pretty good at spike ball. We've played it for a while. And this kid comes in and just wrecks us.
Smokes us.
Absolutely fucking smokes us. Yeah. And that's kind of when I learned, like, oh, like, just like jiu-jitsu, there's levels to this spike ball thing. And we are definitely blue belts, and he's like a brown belt. You know? And and so and he didn't even start doing jiu-jitsu like too soon after that. Like, it took him a little bit, and then eventually he came to a class, and now like just having people like that, and Parker just who ended up blossoming in this tournament. And you know, obviously we went into the tournament with no expectation of winning, just like, hey, we want to give this experience to our athletes, and we want them to fight their hearts out, you know, and just give it their all. And that's what we're going to be happy about, and that's what we're going to be proud of. But yeah, eventually we just like started looking at the leaderboards of the teams, and we're like, holy shit, we can win this thing.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. And actually the funny thing is when I looked at the leaderboards, I saw that we were in second place or something, and kind of takes a while for the points to adjust. Yeah. And you know, the team ahead of us, it seemed like they had too many points. I was like, okay, well, even if we take second, that's pretty cool for our first tournament. Yeah. And after our last match, Julian, I had assumed we'd taken second, and then Gabe's dad came up and was like, you guys won this thing. Wow. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Yeah. And that was so cool. And you know, speaking of Parker and how people ended up at Allground, I was running with Parker the other day after one of our 6 a.m. classes, and I'm running alongside him, and I'm like, dude, almost like 15 years ago, we were at Douglas High School wrestling together, and weren't friends. Like we were cool with each other, but we weren't like hanging out after school or anything. We were just like wrestling buddies. Yeah. You know, it was just like, it was such a weird moment.
Serendipity.
Yeah. And now I'm running alongside him, and he's competing, and he's so passionate about jiu-jitsu, and is such a good representative of Allground. Yeah. And I was like, man, those moments are really cool, because you just don't expect those. Like, I always think if there were a narrator, you could like narrate certain parts of your life. Like when we met Parker,
like Hunter, you know, where there's like, Gon didn't know that he would meet Parker again.
Exactly. Yeah, something like that. Because then you'd be like, what? How does that even happen?
Yeah. And I think like another one of those like people that were really, you know, lucky to meet and to have like come into our gym, come into our lives is Charles, you know, Chunks. And
Chunks,
you know, you just like, I think Chunks is such a great asset to this team, for the obvious reason of that he's just a fucking go-getter. Yeah. You know, and like, you know, at the age that he is, like competing as frequently as he is, training as hard as he is, you know, on the days that he's here, he's first guy here, last to leave type of like mentality, you know? Like he's here running in the parking lot, and then he's training, and if he can get extra rounds, he's getting extra rounds, you know? And he's, you know, under our banner, he's taken quite a few medals home for IBJJF, and he's been competing frequently.
He just won a gold last weekend, right?
Just won a gold in San Jose.
And then like 2 weeks before that as well.
Yeah. And no, it's just really cool to see, and such a motivating thing. Like if you're at Allground, if you're a student at Allground, and maybe you're on the younger side and you're looking for motivation, like look at that guy, you know, look at that guy, you know, and just be like, this never ends. This never ends. There's never a moment where, you know, you're going to be too old for this, you know, or like, that's the great thing about jiu-jitsu, and even just getting after it, you know, at the comp class, he's the one closing the garage, just like, all right, you guys are going to suffer. you know, we're all gonna suffer together.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it's a motivating thing for people. But yeah, there's so many people, you know, that have come in within the year of Allground being open that we're like, wow, holy shit, we're blessed.
Yeah. I think so much of it is recognizing how lucky we are to meet all these people and to have these relationships. And it adds to what Allground represents and what it is for us. And I honestly, like, I pinch myself sometimes just thinking, man, I really just get to do this for a living. Like, I just get to wake up and focus on building Allground and come and teach awesome people and just try to grow the brand and try to grow the business and grow the community.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. I think the hardest part is just like keeping yourself accountable. Like you got to tell yourself what to do. You know, you got to clock in. You got to figure out how to move the needle forward. But I think while moving the needle forward this entire time, we've maintained authenticity to the, you know, to the max. And I think that's why we have such an awesome community around us. I think people see that and they see the Anderson brothers as just authentic, very passionate martial artists.
Yeah.
And that's just going to bring the right crowd. That's going to bring the right people. And then also we're the type of people that can recognize, you know, how stoked we are. Is that Mark?
It is.
That's
that Mark?
Boji.
Here, why don't you guys keep going and I'll be right back.
Yeah, sure. You can hear my dog.
He's psychotic.
quiet.
That's what he is.
Yeah, but he loves to bark.
Yeah.
He loves.
It's kind of his
and
thing.
he will go until, I mean, if you're a new face to him, he will just not stop. Like if you walk in the door and you're a new face to him, he's not going to stop barking.
Yeah.
He's not going to stop barking until like you pet him or like somehow he's like, all right, I think we're cool. I think this guy's all right. And it's not even like a protective thing because I don't think he's like.
It's just he's talking to you.
Yeah.
He's just excited.
It's just a Boji thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it, you know. And I think, you know, on topic with kind of what Elias was talking about, obviously this year has brought so much like just like good things into our life. And one thing that I really want to talk about that also came up through our year was our relationship, you know, during our no excuses period, you know, because that was a huge thing for us, and obviously something that we still want to continue, and we've had
Well, it's a
ons
lifestyle.
and offs, you know.
Yeah, it's a
with
lifestyle,
but
no excuses, you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just talk about like what that did for all of us, you know. And you know, obviously, when Elias gets back, we'll have him add to this. But you know, you and I can talk about a little bit of our perspective because I think that was like a kind of a dynamic change in our relationship. You know, me, you, and Elias, as well as Nate too. You know.
Nate, you know, some people have joined in here and there. Parker, Jake and Owen have even come and hung out.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. Margot was there.
Yes, Margot.
We had like special guests to No Excuse Thursdays.
No Excuse Thursday has had some special guests.
Yeah. I actually just moved the cold plunge back out of the garage and onto the deck, which is my favorite place.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, there's something about cold plunging, the birds flying around, and you know, it's just pretty outside. It's so much
beautiful.
fun. Yeah. Being in a garage, cold plunging, it's like, you're getting the physiological benefits, but the psychological side of it is just it's not the same.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what though, I definitely have some great memories of just that heater just kicking on and just us hitting the cold plunge with Christmas music playing.
Yeah. That was special.
Yeah. It was a great moment. I mean, because it kind of started with you, Elias, and Jake.
It was mostly just Elias. He came over one time. Oh, you guys came over for like a barbecue.
Yes.
And Elias tried out the cold plunge. You tried it out same day. And then about a week later, he came up to me. He's like, "Hey, what do you think about coming over in the mornings and doing the cold plunge?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, that sounds great. You know, it'll be motivating for me."
Yeah.
And then we started working out and cold plunging and sauning, and then and that continued on for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that kind of put the nail on the coffin for Tuesday and Thursday mornings is now that you guys have expanded your offerings.
Yeah.
Well, Allground, it just logistically can't happen at that time. But we can still like mix it in on the weekends.
Yes. And I think like finding a way to get back to it, obviously, like as this business grows, like so does the amount of work we do. But yeah, I want to find a way to get back to that, because that was like, I think that was awesome for me and super helpful. And dude, I loved every part of it. And it also started, I mean, because Elias, I think when he was in Japan, you asked me like, "Hey, like, do you want to run with me at 5 a.m?"
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, geez, 5 a.m? 5 a.m, huh?
That's kind of early.
What about 5:30 in the morning?"
Yeah, exactly.
So we pushed it back to 5:30, just thinking, you know what, the extra 30 minutes is gonna help.
It still sucks. But,
yeah.
you know, the hardest part, I think, if you're going to try to get into the habit of running in the mornings early, start in the summer when it's light out. Because if you try to get out of bed at 4:30 in the morning in November, when it's 15, maybe 9 degrees outside, and you're going to try to start that habit then, it's probably not going to take.
Oh, man.
You got to already have that habit solid by the time those cold mornings come, because otherwise there's just no way. It's miserable.
Oh, you know? Yeah, for sure.
But it's also incredibly rewarding to do that. And I think that's partly why you guys kind of resonated in my life, is because you have that attitude of, you know, there's always a harder way, embrace the suck, work hard, push hard through things. Like that work ethic really speaks to my soul. I love being around people that have a strong work ethic.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes there are people with strong work ethics and they're jerks.
Yeah.
I don't want to hang around with them,
Yes.
but the fact that you guys are actually nice people. I mean, despite your third professional fight, I still think you're a nice guy.
Yeah, which we won't tell anyone about.
Nobody knows about it.
Yeah, don't go and look it up. In fact, you know, just stay away from watching my fights until, you know, we start up again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, yeah, you can think what you want, but he had it coming. All right, let's not say that.
Yeah.
Maybe I had it coming.
Maybe you both had it coming. Maybe you both were just a couple hotheads.
I had it coming.
I definitely had it coming by the looks of it.
What?
We're talking about my stunts of. We're
His
back on
shenanigans.
the third professional fight.
Fennicle fight.
My Fennicle.
Yeah.
My Papa Giorgio fight.
Yeah.
I wonder if that guy listens to the podcast and he's like,
I would be
I'm living in
shocked
that guy's,
if he listened to the podcast.
I'm living in that guy's head rent free.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like he's marking every time I talk about it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
No, but Ty and I were talking about, you know, just recapping the year. Like a big thing in our year since this has been open was our no excuse days, like our Tuesday, Thursday mornings.
Yeah.
You know,
that was fun.
And like, yeah, I mean that kind of, I was telling Ty that I feel like that was a big catalyst for our relationship, you know, and just pushing it forward, you know, all the three of us, including Nate too. Yeah, and like you said, some special guests.
Yeah.
Sometimes Parker would be there at times, Colton would be there at times, you know, but I think the core group was me, you, Ty, and Nate.
Yeah.
You know, and that was just
the longest run of regular cast was the four of us, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Sure,
But-
yeah.
And I miss Nate, you know, because he's been coming in the evenings, from what I understand, which I haven't.
Yeah.
But he hasn't been over at the office co-working with me. He's abandoned me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit abandoned, Nate, as you listen to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, I think I was kind of the glue that held it together.
Yeah. and then Lila came and just like tore it all apart.
Yeah.
And that's what kids do. They ruin everything.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much up until like the day before she was born, we were doing the Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah.
A couple days before she was born. I'm pretty sure we did that Thursday before she was born. And then after that, these guys just stopped going.
She was born and she was just like, we got to shut her down. By the way, I do have to say that, as a dad, and now have my youngest and my middle son, my 2 sons coming here and training, and they really like it.
Yeah.
I think one of the best experiences for dads out there is to get your sons to do jiu-jitsu so that you can actually wrestle with them.
Yeah.
One of my buddies, so Nate's dad actually asked me one day, like 4 years ago, he's like, do you wrestle with your boys? I'm like, not really. And he's like, I highly recommend it. I'm like, why is that? He's like, I don't know, man. It just creates a deeper relationship.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Something
okay.
about fighting your dad.
Yeah.
In a
It must
friendly
be
way.
Elias's dream.
Yeah.
Something about a knockdown, drag-out fight with your
Knockdown.
dad.
Yeah. They're like, Dad, what do you
Bashing
think
beer
about
bottles over each other's heads?
punching? Should we incorporate punching into our jiu-jitsu together?
No, I think
That's
you're
really
right.
why
I think it could definitely. I mean, we grew up, wrestling and rolling with our dad.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was so cool.
Yeah.
There's something about it that's just, I think that there's an element of building a relationship with your father that, I don't know. I think it's really special. And I mean, if there's dads out there that are like wanting to bring their kids in to learn jiu-jitsu, they should join too. They really should.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, first of all, it's something you can share together.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just sitting on the sidelines yelling at your kid, get in there too.
Yeah.
Because the dads that sit there and they don't know anything about jiu-jitsu other than watching it, they've never experienced it. They're like, why don't you just, Kimura him or something? Like, Dad, you don't understand. Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, you have to learn how to get in position and stuff. And it's like, yeah, but I saw this video on you. No, no, dude. But if you do it, then you know.
Yeah. Just in general, and I think this is something you do well as a dad, is like anything that your kids are passionate about, like try to get to understand it or try to get to like do it, watch it, play it, whatever, whatever it might be, like you
Just be in their
and
lives,
Graham with
participate.
anime, you know?
Yeah.
And that's super cool, And I think like when they are passionate about something, your relationship is going to grow if you can connect with them on it, or try to connect with them, or even just be like, hey, I'm going to give that a try because I know you love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if I don't necessarily love it, if I can enjoy it at least with you, then the enjoyment is the sharing.
Yeah.
By the way, Graham told me yesterday or the day before that he's on a 170-day streak on Duolingo with Japanese. So
Whoa.
170 days.
That's crazy.
That's pretty
big.
solid.
That's awesome.
Yes. I think that's freaking awesome. Is he like able to, take a good amount from that? Is he able to like hold basic conversation?
I don't think he has the opportunity to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
That's the problem with Japanese. Like if you're trying to learn Spanish,
Yes.
there's a lot of people that speak Spanish in
Yeah.
Reno, so you could just like go find somebody and talk to them, or your Spanish teacher at school. But Japanese is a little tougher. But these days with the learning tools, it does have voice recognition, and so there's a little bit of a conversational element that it didn't used to be. It used to be just you listen to a recording and try to say it, but you'd get no feedback on whether or not you were saying it right.
Yes. So Duolingo is doing that now, and I've been back on it because, for a while, like I've said it on the podcast before. One of my biggest goals is to just learn another language,
Yeah.
And like I just want to do that. I want to be fluent in another language, and there's been opportunity and like interest in all these different type of languages. Like, I was interested in Japanese because I'm so into like, anime and different. I mean, a lot of jiu-jitsu is derived from judo, which is Japanese, and
Jiu-jitsu is a Japanese word.
Yeah. So I was just like into the culture, and so I wanted to learn that. But like you said, if you're not able to like speak with someone, I think speaking practice is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Right. You have to be able to like find words and just try to speak it. And the more you can do that, and the more like you can get corrected, it's gonna up your language learning so much.
Yeah.
And everything has a language, right? Like
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu has its own language. Well, yes, you can use the Japanese terms or you can use the English terms.
Yeah.
Or you can make up terms.
Yeah, like the what was it? The cow wrestler.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the steer wrestler.
Steer wrestler. Instead of the cow catcher.
Yeah, you know, and I'm realizing that more and more as an instructor. I'm like, I'll just make it up. There's no rules.
Broomstick.
Why can't I make up the freaking rules?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I went from Japanese and then I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll learn Lao because Tina speaks Lao and her parents both speak it. So like maybe it'd be nice to like actually have a full conversation with them one day.
Yeah.
Because like
That's
right
tough,
now
though.
we've never done that. But Lao, the resources to learning Lao are like zero.
Yeah, there's a couple books,
resources.
but there's no Duolingo.
Yeah,
or
no Duolingo, no apps.
Rosetta Stone.
Yeah, nothing you can listen to.
It's just
really,
too small of a country.
Yeah.
But you could get you could get really close just by learning Thai because it's so close.
Yeah.
If you spoke Thai, you could pick up Lao pretty fast.
Right,
From what I
right.
understand.
Right. But I finally settled on way back when Elias and I were living in a trailer. We were like, oh, well, let's learn. I'm going to learn Portuguese. Elias is going to learn Spanish. And then we're going to kind of like, go from there. And so I had a lot of time. I put maybe like close to 3 months of consistent practice in. And then I stopped. And recently, like, I made friends with Nate, whose wife is Brazilian Portuguese. And so she speaks it fluently. And he's like, I'm going to learn it. Like, let's do it together. Let's learn it together. So we have this accountability thing now, which is nice. And then on top of that, like Daniel Park, who was coming to the 6 a.m. classes, he is a
Very
Brazilian-born
Portuguese-speaking person.
yeah. He was born in Brazil. I mean, he's Korean, but he was born in Brazil.
Yeah.
And so he speaks fluent Portuguese. And
Where's he been, by the way?
I don't know. I texted him, but he said he's going to come back soon. Yeah. So
He better. I made him a coffee cup.
yeah, we're gonna get him back.
Yeah, we'll get him
No,
back.
I told him. So, yeah, there's more people to speak with in practice that than any other of those languages, and more resources as well. And on top of that, like when we go to these tournaments where it's just Brazilian owned, Brazilian run, like I want to be able to know what they're saying.
Yeah, because they're like, that stupid white boy. He doesn't know. Yeah, they're talking about you the whole time.
Exactly.
You know it.
So I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna be arguing with the refs in Brazilian Portuguese.
I love it.
And I finally just decided like, hey, this is the language I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna stick to it, and that's that.
Yeah.
And that's that.
Well, in
But
a
I
few
hope
years,
Graham-
you'll be able to talk.
Yeah, they say it takes for languages like 10 years to be fluent. For the
Yeah.
harder languages, like that's what they say for Japanese.
I feel like almost any language, if you're willing to just keep plugging away at it and you can find a place to immerse.
Yeah.
So like if he was really, really dedicated to it and he could spend a year living in Japan,
Yeah.
he would be like fluent enough where he could just have conversations.
Oh yeah. 100%.
He wouldn't be fully fluent, but he'd be
Yeah.
fluent enough. He'd
Yeah.
have like people that have lived in the U.S. for a few years.
Yeah.
They have an accent, spoken English, but they can communicate with you.
Yes.
And that's really where you want to get to.
Yeah,
We're not
yeah.
trying to be spies. We don't want people to think that we're from Japan. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
and
that'd
like
be cool, I
there
guess.
are some people like that's where you just want to get, like you want to be like, yeah, maybe my pronunciation isn't that good, or maybe they think like, oh, I think you're saying that word a little wrong, but I understand what you're saying and we can have conversation and I can understand what you're saying to me.
Yeah.
And then like just the more you do that, eventually, you might be at that point where you're like, holy, this is like, I'm just speaking another language that's just, it's natural to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the more natural it gets.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's my goal.
Putting yourself in different environments too, like if you're going to speak with Kathleen and Nate, like going to a coffee shop, going to the park, being at the gym, you're going to be exposed to like different items, different things. So
the
you're going to learn.
context changes, the setting changes, so therefore your conversation will be different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to talk about squirrels when you're at the coffee shop, probably.
Yeah.
But when you're at the park, you might say, "Hey, look at that squirrel."
Yeah. And I think there's phrases you like use in daily life that's just like, if you learn like a few phrases, like it's going to translate to so many different things.
The other hard thing is when you're learning another language and you're learning the classical language, you don't learn filler words.
Right.
And so when people use those filler words, it's very confusing to you at first until you realize what it is.
Yes.
For example, like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's learning English and they keep hearing you say like, then they get really confused because they're wondering, do you just really like everything?
Yeah.
I don't understand why you keep saying that. Is everything like everything else? What is going on here? I'm totally confused.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I didn't even think about that.
All right, so what's the future of Allground? Is there anything exciting that you want to tell people about Allground beyond just it's really cool and you should come here, but renovations for the gym, program changes? I mean, there is the schedule change, which we haven't mentioned on here, but
we introduced Allground kickboxing, which we always knew we wanted to have kickboxing. I mean, Laird and I have been doing kickboxing and boxing since we were 6 or 7 years old, and then Tina's been kickboxing for a while. We knew that we could always run a really good kickboxing program. Laird and I also went to Thailand, and of course, been involved in MMA our whole lives, so it's just always been a part of our training as well. But we figured, just focusing on the jiu-jitsu aspect and building all-ground jiu-jitsu as the brand would be something that we could just focus on, put our sole efforts into. And then we launched Allground Kickboxing and launched it, with a bang, bringing out Fightcraft, which is really cool. We hosted a big free seminar for everyone just to let people in the community know that we have it, and it's been great. Allground Kickboxing has been taking off, and I think the future of Allground is really just for Allground itself to encompass, martial arts and a martial artist lifestyle. So yeah, I'd like to move to eventually just being Allground, and then Allground will have jiu-jitsu, Allground will have wrestling, Allground will have, mobility and strength training. And
I think the real question though is, when will you incorporate a Meridote?
Well, we're going to start with Kung Fu.
Yeah.
I think that a BJJ gym or any jiu-jitsu gym.
Whoa, JJ gym. Or a JJ gym.
Oh, JJ gym.
Yeah.
JJ gym.
Hold on,
Whenever Master Ken visits, you've really arrived.
Right.
That's the moment.
See, people keep trying to get seminars with big athletes that are winning a lot of things, but nobody cares.
Yeah.
Everybody wants Master Ken.
That's right.
Their academy.
That's
we
what
had a
they
Master
want.
Ken seminar. We're blowing up.
Yeah.
That's almost as good as being on Rogan. Maybe better, actually.
Yeah.
Better. 100% better.
I had this thought of, a lot of academies will do seminars to promote their own academy, and it's kind of a cool thing to do. The thing with seminars, realistically, is you get an instructor coming out and teaching something that's awesome, but so many of the people that attend the seminar just don't apply it or implement it in their training because it's just one day and it's done. And then you're back to your regular life, back to your regular schedule, which is why I think camps are so cool. If you do, in wrestling, you would go to like a 1 week camp out in Iowa or something. You would learn so much, and you would just deep dive into so many topics. And I think that there needs to be more of that in jiu-jitsu. But I was also thinking, like, people also bring out like black belt world champions, and they probably spend a lot of money bringing out a world champion for a seminar, and then what's the return on that investment? I mean, is it really worth it to bring someone out, spend a bunch of money, pay for the hotel, do the whole thing, when maybe like those people that come to the seminar don't care as much as you do, because you as the black belt, as the instructor, are like, this person's amazing.
You're in awe of that person, but they're not. They're like,
I don't really know that person. I didn't even know what jiu-jitsu was until I met you.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to start bringing out like the best blue belts in the world. It's like, why don't we just bring out the #1 blue belt?
Way
and
more
he's gonna
affordable.
be like, wait, really? You want me to teach a seminar to your whole academy? I'm just a blue belt. I'm like, yeah, but you could probably fuck up 90% of black belts out there. And then, we'll just be like, hey, we got a really good blue belt coming out. He's going to teach us some awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And then people are like, okay, whatever.
The blue belt comes in. We're like, so we got you a McDonald's gift card for your. He's like,
and an
awesome.
Allground hat.
Yes, an Allground hat. Yeah. That's so good.
We got you a sticker pack. Like, sick.
Now, what about hosting small tournaments here? Would that be something you guys would ever consider doing?
I have always wanted to host like an all-ground invitational, and I have a particular rule set in mind that I would really love. But I think that that's, something for Q3 of next year.
Okay. Okay.
Or of this coming.
But it's on the radar at least.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know if you've wanted to do that, but I've always had this idea of like a really cool all-ground invitational.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had the idea, and I also just think like there's so much missing from the rules of jiu-jitsu. Like, I mean, everything's gonna have their like, oh, this isn't good for this reason. Every rule set's gonna have their
like
oh,
what?
I don't like
give me
that.
an example of.
I mean, like IBJJF. Like, I think, I just think like most jiu-jitsu tournaments should be, and this is pretty much impossible because anyone can sign up. But if they were similar to wrestling tournaments, whereas like there's a bracket, there's a consolation bracket, there's stall calls, there's there's like the points are clear, there's no advantages, like there's an overtime if it's tied up, like there's always a way to figure out like who is the real winner, you know, and there's a way to avoid stalling. And like, hey, some of the coolest things, like when you're watching the NCAA tournament, watching like who wins first is awesome. But, there was Tyler Kasak, for example. He's a Penn State wrestler. His true freshman year, he lost in the first rounds of the NCAA, and he came back and won 7 straight to place third.
Oh, geez.
Which is like, that's so much. That's
so
even more
cool.
badass. Like, because you have to win 5 to win the whole tournament. Imagine losing 1 and then winning 7 straight to place third.
Yeah.
So it's like,
That's
if
so
you could
cool.
have moments like that in jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
where it's like, most of the time people don't even know these high-level athletes because they're like, oh, he lost in the first round. Like, he must suck.
Yeah.
But no, if he lost in the first round and then he came back and beat everyone else to be the third place winner, like, you're going to look at that athlete and be like, whoa, this guy is fucking good and badass.
Yeah, battled back.
Yeah. So I think like if jiu-jitsu, especially for like the smaller invitationals, had more, consolation brackets, it would be cool.
I know. I love the idea of consolation brackets. I mean, growing up and when we would go to wrestling tournaments, if anyone was in a consolation bracket, it was just like the idea of battling back.
Yeah.
We're battling back. We're battling for third.
Yeah.
You did not accept that you were just out.
Yeah.
And that's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Do they ever do it like, I'm very, very new to all this, as you know, but did they ever do anything like pools and then playoffs like they do in like volleyball or motocross? They always have this idea of LCQ, last chance qualifier, right? So they'll do heats and like the top 2 guys make it to the final races, and then the guys that didn't make it, they all get thrown into a group, and then they fight in what's called the last chance qualifier, and it's usually like the dirtiest, nastiest racing where they're like knocking each other over and stuff because it's like their literal last chance to make it someplace where they could make some money.
Yeah.
But changing something up where you would do something where there's pool, where it's just a bunch of people kind of battle each other, and then they make it into a bracketed tournament.
Yeah.
Is that ever done, or is it always pretty much a standard in these IBJJF tournaments?
No, not in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Like, they don't do that. They do that in wrestling, though.
Okay.
And like,
Well, they have qualifiers in jiu-jitsu. I mean, you have so many qualifiers where you have to win that in order to get to the actual tournament and get into the actual bracket. So ADCC, for example, everybody wants to get to ADCC and be in that tournament.
But it's not at that tournament that the qualifiers happen. It's previous.
It's previous. Yeah.
So you have to
in
be in another
Oh,
smaller
yeah, so,
tournament and place high enough or something.
yes,
Yeah.
If you're talking about like, hey, you could do the East Coast trials, and like you could place third, and then you're like, fuck, I didn't make it. I didn't, didn't get into ADCC. So now you're gonna prepare for the West Coast trials, and that's like. That's the last chance. That's the last chance to qualify.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of how like Loretta Lynn youth national championship in motocross works. They have all these Loretta Lynn qualifiers, and families that are really into it will travel all over the country with their kids and try to get them to to like the first event, and then they have to go to I think it's like sectional and then regional and then finally to Loretta Lynn's.
Yeah.
And it's like so competitive.
Yeah. And then it just kind of ups the ante of like, all right, this is it. I either win this one or, you know, I'm not in it.
Yeah.
You know?
I think what I really like about this place though is that there's a nice balance between catering to the people that want that competitive side, that where they want to go and enter tournaments and they want to battle, and then people that just want to get fit or it's a hobby. And like for me personally, I'm kind of that more hobby guy. I mean, I like it. I don't know. I may at some point want to enter IBJJF or something and kind of go what Chunks is doing, where I don't have to. You know, I'm 50. I don't want to fight a 25-year-old. You know,
yeah, you wouldn't. And well, I think that if you're doing it right, that idea of things being separated, it's baked in altogether.
Yeah.
So even as competitors, not every day is going to be like a comp class.
Right.
But we are going to focus really heavy into technique, and then we're going to have our hard sparring days. You know, then we're going to have our more, you know, fast-paced drilling days. But whether you're a beginner and you just want to be a hobbyist or you're coming in here to be a competitor, you're on the path to be a competitor whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
Like when you walk into Allground, because we're making sure that your technique is going to be at a high level. We're giving you all of the components from standing to, you know, from wrestling to judo to jiu-jitsu to the submissions and whatnot. And so, yeah, I think the idea is to eventually just empower people enough and make them feel good enough to where they decide, maybe I could compete. You don't even have to ask them, you know?
Yeah.
And then that's cool, because another big way to grow your academy is to have people out there representing you and winning under your banner. And other academies in the area recognize that. People in the area recognize that. And you start to develop a reputation, and then, you know, that grows the academy and that grows the student base. And if you have a lot of competitors that are winning, then more people that want to compete, more high-level athletes, they're just going to gravitate towards your space.
Do you think that like turns off the people that aren't, like, whether they know it or not, they may want to compete, but they don't know it at first. They're just like, hey, it's a good way to get in shape. It's, you know, it's something I've never tried. It'd be exciting. It'd be adventurous, but I'm not really looking to go compete. I just want to go train there. Do you think that like too big of a focus on competition turns off some of those people where they wouldn't come in? It's a little too intimidating for them, or do you think it's not a problem?
I think it would be if it was shoved in their face. You know, if we were like, hey, you should compete, or like every class was hard. Every class we were talking about, all right, we got to get ready for this competition. You know, and like I'm sure that would be like too much for people. But to Elias's point, I think it's just, we're giving you the tools that set you up for success if you wanted to compete. You know, everything that we're teaching is not just like, we're not teaching what we're teaching and building the curriculum we're building to be like, I hope you guys are good hobbyists. You know, like I hope we want to give the best instruction, and we want to be
capable martial artists.
Yeah, we want to be exactly. And like a capable martial artist is capable to, you know, compete and have success in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not something that's like we're pushing people to do, but we encourage it if they want to. And
You know, I agree. I think.
And also to like answer your question a little more, I think, you can turn people away. And I think that's okay, because, you know, if our goal, I think the more you win, the more competitors that win, the more you win as a team, like eventually even the people that have no aspirations to compete, they're still going to like want to train where the best people train.
Yeah.
You know, and like they're just, it's just like it's like eye candy, I guess, to them. They like see that and they're like, well, this must be a really great place to train, even though I have they're obviously doing something right. And then, I mean, you see that with a lot of people. Like when you start, you see a lot of people that obviously have a little money that want to start golf, and they're like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna get the AI smoke driver, you know, as my first driver. And you're like,
first driver, yeah,
and you're like,
exactly.
You don't need that.
$600 for
you
one
absolutely
club.
do not need that.
Yeah.
But you want it because you're like, well,
It's
the
the best.
performance is there and it's the best, and like a lot of these competitors use it,
Yeah.
so
that is
why
true.
wouldn't I?
Yeah. And I think that even if, for me, again, as an example of kind of that person that's focused more on the hobby and the fitness side of it, and I enjoy it, and it's something I can do with my kids. But then I come in here and I get to roll with, Parker, who, just destroyed everybody that he went up against at the last tournament. And if I can even give him trouble, then I know that I'm getting better, because I can say, well, Parker is really good. As a white belt, he's amazing. And, he'll soon be a blue belt, I'm sure. And if I can at least give him trouble and have competitive rounds with him, then then it's a good measuring stick for me.
Exactly. And I to that point, I think that's one thing that we do really well here from, Laird and I coaching it, but also just the community in general. We have a very supportive community for those that are competing, so we talk about it all the time, but at the end of class, when we're either finishing competition class or we're in another class where there's a lot of people still getting ready for the tournament, it's like, hey, I want you to know that you guys are exactly where you should be. I'm really stoked that you're going to be competing. And if you're not competing and you're here supporting your teammates, like, you're just as much a part of it. You're just as important. And I want to thank you for that. And you, you're one of those guys where even though you're not competing right now and may want to compete in the future, like, you're showing up for your teammates that are competing and trying to give them a tough time. Yeah. And I think that's exciting for people also. They're like, I don't really want to compete right now, but I love the fact that I can help these guys get ready because I'm getting better because of it. And, I'm trying my best to make them better.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing they talked a lot about at AKA. Well, Javier talked a lot about, because like a fight is a huge thing. Like you train 8 to 10 weeks, and, if you're really disciplined, you're cutting out anything bad in your diet. You're staying disciplined there, staying disciplined with your sleep. You're not going out to a freaking your brother's show if you wanted to go to your, and so I think fighters will be like, all right, I just finished this. I won my fight. I want to take a long break, and he would always bring up, too many people are taking vacations and breaks after their fights. There's people here that need you. If you're a good body for these other guys that might have a fight 3 weeks after you, and you're just gone for those 3 weeks that they're preparing, it's not going to be helpful to anyone, and if you're there for them, people are going to show up for you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the community we're building. When people show up for each other, it's just a cycle where that just continues.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And you're going to get very, very selfish people, no matter what, that are just only concerned with, with themselves and don't care about helping anyone else get ready. But not in an environment like this do I feel that's really going to stick. Laird and I are, steadfast in our beliefs in martial arts and our approach to martial arts, especially when it comes to supporting one another, supporting each other in this community. And so, if you're coming in here with a really selfish mentality, you won't stick around long.
Yeah.
And you won't feel the love. You won't feel the love.
I feel like there's definitely culturally here, you guys you feel like you have a strong responsibility to Allground, but I feel like you guys have the feeling that you have a strong responsibility to the jiu-jitsu community at large, and supporting the other academies, and just you believe in the martial arts. The martial arts is greater than Allground. It's that's what you're trying to support overall. And Allground is where you have your sphere of influence, and that's where you can that's where the boots hit the ground. You can train people one-on-one and make them better, but you believe in making a rising tide raises all ships. That kind
100%.
of mentality for sure.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
and I love that. I love that, that you guys don't have anything negative to say about any of the other academies. You're always man, get in there, train, go get better. That's awesome. I love that because as a CrossFit gym owner, that's always been a weird thing where some gyms are like that, like you guys, where you're very supportive of everybody. And some of them are feel like it's a zero-sum game. There's only they feel like there's a very limited number of students and I have to take as many as I can get kind of attitude. And they get weird, and it just feels weird to talk to them. And so I just like to see business owners out there that are very supportive of the community.
Yeah.
In the way that you guys
100%.
are.
Thanks, Ty.
Awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think for some people, like, it gets too personal to the point where they forgot about, like, the bigger picture.
Yeah.
You know, and the bigger picture of martial arts is, like, to get it out there to as many people as possible.
Except for serial killers. We don't want them learning.
Yeah.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Rapists, stay away. We don't want you to.
No one that's going to use this for evil.
Yeah.
That's right.
Definitely not. But like Khabib said, good always defeats evil. At the end of the day.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know, man.
We had this conversation, and I'm like, man, evil prevails a lot of the time.
I think evil wins a lot of battles, but I don't think it wins the war.
Yeah,
I think that's the takeaway.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, I mean, we've been going over a little hour here. One last question. Are you down for that?
Sure.
Okay. Super simple. We can all answer it. What does it take to be a champion? Just very simple. Like like for you guys, what does it take to be a world champion?
To be a world champion or to be personally a champion in life?
Not personally a champion in life. No.
Okay.
I'm talking, we're talking about the competitors. We're talking about, showing up as a team.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be the best in the world at something, ultimately, what does it take?
I could say, I think that a lot of people would say that it takes a lot of talent. And I think that it does take talent, but I think you have to be talented enough. I don't think you have to be the most talented. I think you have to be talented enough, and then you have to have discipline and be willing to make sacrifices that nobody else is willing to make. And I don't know if you know Dave Ramsey, the finance guy, he says, live like no one else so that you can live like no one else. And that's basically the mentality. You have to be willing to give up what nobody else is willing to give up. Mm-hmm. And that's what Khabib would say too, right? Like sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sacrifice makes a champion.
Yeah. Yeah. I think intelligence and sacrifice, because, like there always has to be purpose. You cannot, everyone trains hard. Everyone trains hard. Not everyone sacrifices, everything that might be a detriment to your training, or even like those moments like Khabib has talked about, like not seeing your family for a while because, this is your only time to become champion. And you have, and a lot of people will not agree with this, but like that's the mentality of a world champion, is they're like, I know it doesn't make sense, but this is what I need and this is what I want, and like I'll just do whatever it takes to get there. But also, if you don't have the like studious, intelligent mind to like know how you're gonna get better every day, rather than just like going in and like, hey, I'm gonna train hard today. I'm gonna train hard today, because everyone at the highest level of whatever it is, is training hard or doing doing their particular practice hard, And so intelligence is huge, like knowing what to do, when to do it, how to do it.
Yeah.
Every day you walk into the gym,
It's like if you said, we're going to race to Baltimore. We're going to get there as fast as we can.
Yeah.
Who's going to get there faster? The guy that's going the fastest, or the guy that's going pretty fast but toward Baltimore? You know what I mean? Like you got to still be going in the right direction.
Yeah.
You can't just run fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of times training hard is just, you're not going in the right direction.
Yeah.
You still have to like know what wall to put your ladder against,
Yeah. Yeah, but I agree with you, and Ty as well. Like I think just one of the top is sacrifice,
Yeah.
Like the amount of things you're willing to sacrifice is gonna directly correlate to like your performance and your success.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point though, because people do talk about sacrifice, but not enough about the intelligence aspect.
Yeah.
I mean, you can train as a champion and leave no stone unturned, but if your strategy isn't correct, like if you're spending 80% of your time striking, and you are at the highest level striking, and you are just sacrificing everything outside of the gym to focus on being, the best martial artist that you can be, that you think you need to be, that's not always going to be everything it takes.
Yeah,
I
and
think
then
you need to
Marab
have,
grabs your
exactly.
legs, and you're like, oh, crap.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Oh, crap.
Like you have to be smart. You have to think, how could I be defeated? Yeah. I think not only do you need sacrifice and intelligence, a little bit of delusion, but also some level of humility at the end of every day, and being like, how could I have been killed today?
Yeah.
How
Well, that
could
is
someone
sacrifice.
defeat me?
That's sacrificing your ego, right?
Yeah.
Like, be willing to set your ego aside, sacrifice that for the greater good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you take like Musashi, for example, who's one of the greatest martial artists, like he doesn't even, I don't even think there is elements of sacrifice, but mainly strategy. Like, you know, if Musashi's preparing for a sword duel in a month, I don't think there's anywhere in his book where he's like, I'm preparing for this duel, so, you know, I put a rock on my back and I ran up a hill 10 times, you know? No, it's probably something strategic, or like, how am I going to get better with my sword? You know, rather than like, being in shape is great. That's obviously important. But how can you sharpen the sword? Yeah. You know, and the skills.
Yeah, definitely. How can you keep the blade
like
sharp?
Sword fighting's a little bit different than MMA though, because you know the chances that you're going to hit one strike and just end it quick are a lot less in MMA, and they're there. Yeah. They're not zero, but compared to a sharp sword, you know, the fight might last like half a second.
I agree.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Yeah,
I think that there's, you know, something to draw from there. You know, thinking how you could be killed and how you could be hurt really bad. Yeah. And just trying to find strategic ways to eliminate that in your training and leading up to the fight. Yeah. You know, I think we do take people's power and abilities for granted too much sometimes, because we're focusing on our own power, we're focusing on our own strength, and then we forget that someone else is developing that as well. Mm-hmm. You know, you want to focus on ways to just nullify that and use it against them, or not allow them to use it at all. And that's why some of the greats, like for example Floyd Mayweather, it didn't matter how hard you trained, it didn't matter, you know, how many times or how great you looked in sparring, how much of a world beater you looked. You got in the ring and you just couldn't touch him. You know, you couldn't touch him, and he never got hurt and he never got cut. Yeah.
So being realistic with yourself. You know, where are you lacking in your martial arts, and understand that if I am fighting someone, they're probably trying to figure out where I'm not good, you know, and they're trying to capitalize off that. So it's equally as important to strategize and look at realistically where you're not good.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool.
Dope.
Welcome back to the Allground pod.
Yeah, welcome back.
That was good. That was a cool little recap.
Yeah.
A little update.
Is that?
That's that.
I think so.
Later.
Yeah.
Peace.